So this script has finished running, and it ran for a little over an hour. I was a little surprised how long it took. Um, I was able to keep an eye on it as it ran, and there were some breaks in the data. I think the main thing that it missed was the split cards, but I didn't bother to really follow up on any of the. Yeah, so these are the aftermath cards, the original set from Amonkhet. Um, I didn't follow up because I knew it would be easy for me to do so from within my database. I can just say card.where image URL is nil and count them up. And there are a couple hundred there. So those are something I can just deal with later. We I feel like going through that process of developing a strategy to find those images is not something that I'm interested in addressing now. Maybe I'll follow up with you guys when I do learn a little bit more about that task. But for now, I do want to follow up with what I said I was going to do, which was make it so that this JSON file doesn't have to be in the project file. So this JSON file is, if I remember, it's like 17 megabytes. And that's like probably more than 17 times as big as the rest of my project combined. It's not a big deal to put files like that into my Git repository, but it is a little deal. It slows down the repository when I need to copy it to new places. And we just don't need to do that because this file is easy to get in other ways. I'm not saying there's never a case where you want to embed this type of data source into your project, because I've actually already done that with this project. I have this card names file which I wanted to have on my server because I use it to generate temporary passwords. So there you go. That is a file that I edited, and I wanted to have it on the server, so I added it to the repository. But this one, I'm hoping to not do that. So let's go to mtgjson, see if they have a quick little terms of service type of a guideline here. It says there's a copyright on the data. Okay, well, loading this file directly from this server, oh, it's zipped. That's kind of annoying. Well, I guess I can learn how to unzip it. I wonder if it's available in a non-zipped. Okay, so if I just say copy, why can't I just copy the link? mtgjson.com/json/allcards.json. Okay. Yep, great. So it doesn't have to be zipped. So just for my own simplicity, I'm probably going to tell my server to load this one. So down here, when we used open, we passed a block. I'm not sure what would happen if we just took the result value from open. Could be the same thing. Source file.read, that's the same API as we did with the result that we got here. Okay, so what I'm going to do, I also promised another, I didn't promise this one, but I mentioned in earlier that I was going to add a validation so that cards wouldn't be saved a second time. I can do that pretty simply here. Okay, let's see, I guess I'll probably do it. And active record validations, validates name, uniqueness, true. Present should probably also be true, meaning that the name has to be present, can't be blank. But I don't think that's going to be an issue based on the way we're generating cards here. So now I can leave that save line in here. I don't want to screw up my data because I just spent an hour dressing it up, but I do want to have a rake task that I can run over and over again with different but overlapping data sets. So I guess if calling save here exposes a bug, then it's worth the effort of ingesting the data again. So I'll leave this save here. And I'll try running that rake task. Okay, so I feel like this one is not currently it's not printing out any feedback unless there's unrecognized cards. So I'm gonna, okay, so it was running. It got to the point where it needed to print out some diagnostic. So there we go. So there is a part of me that wants to put this in a different file to put, because this is not code, this is configuration. Same with this address here. These are things that I strongly believe will make the code better and more maintainable. There's no privacy issue involved with publishing these addresses. In fact, I kind of like making them publicly known. So I don't need to scrub them out of my repository for that reason. At this point, I think that the clarity of having them here is nice, and I am open to the idea that it's an improvement to move these configuration details into a different file. But I'm basically just going to table it for now and say maybe later. So This seems to be still going, so hitting Control C didn't cancel it as well. Okay, there we go. Now I'm out. And let's look at the card count. Unchanged, good. So all the cards with the same name were just simply ignored when they attempted to be saved. And let's also look at the number with no image. Yeah, so just making sure that nothing was replaced, right? I mean, I know my system wasn't about to replace things that were already in there with the new ones that had less data, but just to show you that that didn't happen. So now to put this code on the server, I will commit it to, okay, and this is the file that I'm not committing. Here's the file that we wrote. Here's the other little bit of code that we wrote. And here is where we're not using these gems, but I don't mind leaving them around for now. And then here is the data table that we made. So cards, card data, loaded. I try to be pretty darn specific with these messages. So I guess I can just go ahead and be more verbose. Card data loaded from the web. And I'll use the term ingested because that basically means that it was put into my database. Okay, then I can just click this one and it will actually deploy my code. Need to remember to run the migration right after it deploys because Heroku still doesn't do that automatically for you, and it can lead to user-facing errors when people try to go to the site. In this case, I don't think it will because nothing is referring to the card model yet in the code. I'm going to, again, separate this video from the next one where we start to add. So we're going to add another model to connect cards to things like listed items. That's the main one that I'm interested in. Lists might also be relevant to connect cards there. Paragraphs, possibly citations, possibly chapters. I don't know, it kind of depends on what kind of books people want to write, so I'm going to see how the needs develop as the community develop them.